Hey everybody, welcome to another Master Replicas Lightsaber review. It's been a while since I've done any reviews. I've been getting back into video games and Horizon Forbidden West. Kind of trying to put together a perfect file there. That's taken up a lot of time. But I'm continuing to work toward collecting the Master Replicas line of lightsabers. And I think the last video that I made, oh yes, I think the last video I made was the Elite edition of A New Hope Luke or something. I believe it was quite a while back. So since then, I've managed to acquire a few other hilts. Not quite of the pedigree as the Lukes, for instance, but still, you know, these are all treasures at this late stage of the game. And I've been a little bit more selective, trying to pick one up at decent price, making some compromises. This is an example of one of them. This is from a seller in the United Kingdom. And there was a little bit of, it had a little bit of misadventure getting to me. But what you're seeing here is the Mara Jade signature edition lightsaber from Master Replicas. And this was, I believe this was actually the last lightsaber that Master Replicas made from Star Wars. So it has that distinction. So while we talk, as usual, I'm going to start turning it around so you can get a reasonable view from all different sides. So as I typically do, I guess we'll just talk about the acquisition. I bought this off eBay, but I bought it off of eBay UK, and I think your password works for all the different eBays in the different countries. You don't have to create a separate sign-in or log in a separate password. But the danger is that there are going to be some sellers when they're doing their auctions, sometimes on purpose and sometimes just by accident because of neglect, that don't really sell outside the country. And so that is the case with the UK. So I was on ebay.co.uk. I found this hilt, and it came in okay condition. There wasn't a whole lot of information. It didn't have the brown shipper. It had the original black color box with sleeve. The hilt seemed in very good condition. There was also, certificate of authenticity and all of that. And, this is one of the 11 signature editions of the Master Replicas line, but it's kind of like the, the bastard stepchild almost of it, because it's the only hilt that doesn't really come from the movie. It's from essentially the extended universe or the extended or expanded universe that kind of, for a time before Disney bought Lucasfilm, this was a way to sort of continue the stories of our characters from the original trilogy. This was done through comic books and novelizations. And so this is a character, Mara Jade, that was originally introduced in Timothy Zahn's Heir to the Empire. And so this is a very, very old trilogy. And it was actually the first material allowed by George Lucas to be written about the Star Wars characters since the original trilogy. I remember reading it, and it was just very interesting because you're very excited. You want to know what happened to the characters that you've loved for so long, but it's not a movie, it's a book form, but that's actually, like endorsed by Lucas. So it's kind of like semi-canon or canon at the very least. And luckily, Timothy Zahn actually is a very, very good writer. At the time, we didn't know that, but he is a very good writer, and his Heir to the Empire trilogy, so to speak, that introduced Grand Admiral Thrawn and Mara Jade and so many wonderful concepts and characters has, of course, achieved cult status in the years to follow. So this is Mara Jade's lightsaber. It doesn't quite hold the same weight as, let's just say, a movie canon character's hilt replica. But nevertheless, it's one of the 11. In my opinion, the sort of least desirable or least sought after, because again, it does not have that iconic status. Okay, And so there's a lot to explain here. For one thing, let's just kind of talk about the actual lightsaber itself. And like, if this is a fictional character, Mara Jade, she was actually never in any Star Wars movie or TV show, not in any Disney Plus. So if this is the, if she only essentially appeared in novelization format or maybe comic books, then how do we even have a lightsaber to show, right? I mean, there's nothing even made for her. She was never in any movie or TV show. And the answer is that this lightsaber design was created for a collectible card game, a CGC, a Star Wars collectible card game made by a company called Decipher. And this was way back in the day. And of course, for a collectible card game, you need cards, and those cards need to have pictures. And so one of the pictures is of Mara Jade wielding a lightsaber. And so obviously you have to create something for her to wield. And there's a gentleman way back by the name of Jeffrey Parks who designed or created this lightsaber hilt. There's some discrepancy on the actual design itself. Most people attribute this actual saber to Jeffrey Parks, but he has mentioned, I believe, that he didn't actually come up with the design itself, that actually some unknown person at Decipher, the card company, had come up with this design, and then Jeff had just simply made the hilt. That's one version. A lot of people just kind of associate this with Jeff Parks himself. And he had originally, again, created the design for the lightsaber, made the lightsaber, and then that was actually held by the model Shannon McRandall. I don't know if she's an actress or not, model / actress, Shannon McRandall, and she was like the official Mara Jade. I guess the official actress who played Mara Jade. And so she held this lightsaber while she was posing for pictures and paintings and whatnot for the card game. Okay, and then later on, when Master Replicas, for some odd reason, decided to make this lightsaber hilt, this gentleman who, it's pretty funny, he was on the RPF, the Replica Prop Forums, replicapropforums.com website, and his handle is Mara Jade's father. I mean, so this guy is a huge fan of Mara Jade, and his posts way in the midst of time, over 10 years ago, was what I read to get some information about this. Apparently he owned one of the 5 original Mara Jade hilts that was made by Jeff Parks, and he actually sent his original one to the lightsaber designer at Master Replicas, who used that as the model and scanned it in to create this collectible. Again, when you're doing the original Star Wars movies or the prequel at the time pieces, then you get the source material or the reference material from Lucasfilm. You laser scan it. They're very proud of the process. But of course, for this, you don't have the ability to do that, and so they needed to get a so-called hero prop, the most accurate version possible. And Mara Jade's father, was the owner of one of the original 5, a huge Mara Jade fan, a huge Mara Jade collector, and he again allowed Master Replicas to utilize it. So that's how they came up with this very, very accurate replica. So that's sort of the history behind the design of the hilt, who potentially designed it. For sure, Jeff Parks created it, made it, forged it, and it's originally, again, for a Decipher Star Wars collectible card game. And the reason Shannon McRandall's signature is on the plaque is because she was the model or actress hired by Decipher to portray Mara Jade for the card game. So this is how this came to be. This is a signature edition. There was never a limited edition version. So a lot of Master Replicas, as you can see, I think almost all of these signature editions had a limited edition counterpart. So this is the one saber in the collection that does not have a limited edition. They only made 750 of these, and each one is accompanied by the signature plaque. So that is its particular distinction. Okay, so we have the story of the design, the actress. So I guess it's time to maybe take a look at it a little bit closer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take off the acrylic case. I'm going to put it aside as usual. And then we should actually, before doing that, we'll put up the backdrop. I'm distracted by the reflection right over here, so it's a little bit easier to see. I'm going to slide this back a little bit. Let's take a look at the certificate of authenticity. So this is, again, you can tell it's one of the later Master Replicas pieces because it's a beige envelope. Again, not an actual envelope, but a fold-out envelope. It's quite bulky, and so we're going to put this aside. And it comes with the microfiber cloth and the typical stuff that we've seen so many times. This is their registration card and the Master Replicas Collector Society business reply mail, application, whatnot. This is their warranty. And then finally, the certificate of authenticity. So again, this is not a perfect version. There are very small little defects associated with this. I did get it very cheap in the sense that I think a perfectly brand new version of this lightsaber can go, I guess, for $2,000. Again, the value of this lightsaber has not skyrocketed like other pieces, even limited edition pieces. It's one of the most common lightsabers, signature edition on eBay. You'll always find anywhere from 8 to 10 of these. But finding one cheap is not as easy. Usually sellers are trying to sell these for $2,000 to $3,000, which is not really market value at this point. But a good deal, you can get it for probably in the lower 1,000s, maybe anywhere from 1,000 to say 1,500, in that range. And depending on the defects you're willing to live with, you can get it pretty cheap. Like this one I got for, I forget, I think 1,000 British pounds, but including shipping. Or was it 900? It might have been 900 British pounds. I think it was 900 British pounds, which would translate to about 1,000, 1,100, give or take between 1,000 and 1,100 shipped all the way from the UK. So that was out the door. So pretty decent price, but unfortunately, as you can see, it does come with some defects. The certificate of authenticity has seen better days. There's a little bit of discoloration here. I have no idea like how this type of thing actually happened. Maybe it's water damage or something weird like that. But you know, there's a little bit of discoloration along all the corners. Here again, you see the signature edition official replica, and then it's again a trifold. I've talked in the past about how I felt about the Luke Skywalker Star Wars A New Hope signature edition that didn't even have the trifold open, and it had the same type of certificate as like a regular limited edition. They left behind Mark Hamill's photo signing the lightsaber, which is just a travesty. And so this outcry, they did learn from that, and so now we're back to the sort of the trifold opening. So here you have an actual picture of the lovely Shannon McRandall and the date that she was signed in, August 31st, 2007. Definitely the last, the last lightsaber hilt that Master Replicas created. So I'll kind of just try to focus a little bit so, you can take a look. So here you see her signing it. You can see her signing all those little plaques. And then if you open it, this is the actual certificate itself, the same generic, message that was in all of the later Master Replicas collectibles. And then you have the seal. Kind of sad, again, if you look at this, it's not even in gold anymore. I mean, at least it used to be in gold. No signature, nothing, and not even like a gold seal, just your kind of generic seal right here. And then these are some pictures of her, wielding the lightsaber in various promo art. I believe that this is actually what she looks like on the cover of the card. And as you can see, that's actually Shannon McRandall, dressed as Mara Jade, wielding her lightsaber. If you look really closely, you can see that that's the hilt. She's in full dress. It's kind of like big hair, late 2000s. And so if you compare, this picture right here of her all made up on the card, and then of the actress, you can clearly see it's the same person. Okay, so kind of a nice little homage, because again, there's no movie that this character is from, right? And so what are you gonna put? There's no photo of her from any of the movies, so you're gonna put the photo of her from the card game. And then here, I'm gonna just kind of scroll down so you can read a little bit about the history of Mara Jade herself. Get a little bit closer, and then you can read it for yourself by pausing. I read, of course, the original Heir to the Empire trilogy when it was first published, so I know these events very, very well. And there's a little bit of grammatical mistakes actually when I was reading this. Maybe I'm just being a grammar Nazi or something like that. But here you go. I mean, in 1999, Shannon McRandall was chosen to portray the Mara Jade. Did they really mean to do that? I mean, if they did, they should be emphasizing to portray the Mara Jade. I feel like that wasn't quite accurate grammar. And then using reference materials from the expanded universe and working closely with Lucasfilm as Replicas was able to produce this faithful reproduction of Mara Jade's lightsaber. Yeah, prop collection. All right, so there you go. So again, this is the certificate. I'm glad that being the last hilt in the line, they still, they ended it right, and they still gave us a picture of the, actress or person actually signing it. This is very important, at least to people like me who collect these signature editions. We want to see that picture. It's kind of what makes the certificate classy and nice. Okay, so let's put that away. And again, a little bit disappointed with the damage to the corners, but by and large, this is in pretty good shape. And you do have to ask yourself, getting this thing for essentially almost $1,000 cheaper than what a lot of people were paying for it at the time. I'll live with that. Let's just put it that way. So we're just going to carefully put everything back where it belongs. Okay, put it to the side. So this here is the signature plaque. So as you can see, there's no movie for this. So it's just Star Wars, Mara Jade lightsaber, and they have the Lucasfilm and Master Replicas logos. And then this is special edition 661 of 750, Shannon McRandall. I can see her signature. And this is, of course, the stand, same as always. Very nicely done. And then let's bring this forward a little bit. And we're going to just kind of slowly turn it around and take a look at this thing. So this lightsaber actually spent close to a month in customs. Unfortunately, the seller was not very experienced in shipping anything out of the UK and hadn't quite done the forms correctly, and so Federal Express just sat on this thing for quite a long time before it finally came to me. The packaging, could have been better. Essentially, it was just brown paper wrapped around the color box, which, as you can imagine, is not the greatest way to protect something like this from impact damage. Now, granted, the original color box does protect quite a bit, especially the hilt. But the mirror base and the acrylic cover, is vulnerable, especially for shipping from internationally. And really, the original cutter box should have been placed in a larger brown shipper, not just wrapped with brown shipping paper. And then some sort of attempt should have been made to buffer it, either with peanuts or some sort of intermediary buffer to prevent impact from jolting it. This was also sent the cheapest way possible through Federal Express, and so because of that, it did take a long time and saw more handling than normal. So those are kind of ramifications, decisions that have ramifications because it did come with a little bit of minor issue. So taking a look over here, you can see that this hilt has a very unique design. It's hard to tell which is the emitter side, but believe it or not, you could, of course, instinctively figure out what's the emitter, but the emitter is actually right here. This is the actual emitter. You can clearly tell, right? This is where the blade comes out. But it can be a little bit confusing because, as a homage, they did to the T-grips, they put the T-grips over here, but as you know, the T-dot grips, the T-tracks, usually form the grip of the lightsaber, and that's usually at the end, right over here. I wonder if this was done on purpose, just to kind of change things up a little bit, or it was done out of ignorance. But it's very weird to have the T-tracks, first of all, incredibly shortened, and then placed right below the emitter versus line in the bottom like all of the original hilts. Vader's, Luke's, Mace Windu's, for example, those rubberized T-tracks are always at the base for you to grip. And here, it's up here, I guess, maybe this is some place for her to grip as well, is near the very, very top. You can see here the control box right over here. So, that's very, very good. We're gonna put the signature plaque aside. So getting a little bit closer, again, one of the problems here is, by the way, the lightsaber itself, which is the most important thing, obviously, is pristine. There's no scratches, nothing. I wiped it down with a microfiber cloth, looked at it very carefully. It's gorgeous, absolutely no damage. The problem is that one of the legs, even though it was placed in the original packaging, maybe because of impact, was moved. And because it's not like the older Master Replicas display bases, I think was a little bit cheaper. And I mentioned this when I did my review of the Star Wars A New Hope Darth Vader dual signature hilt. Because it's like cheaper, the leg, if there was any force, would just like snap right off and just fall off because it's just literally glue. But that's good because then it's easy for you to just kind of reapply the glue and put it right back on. No harm, no foul, no problem. But here, this being the very last lightsaber, they were trying to do a much better job, and it was affixed much more strongly. Maybe they used epoxy or something like that. It definitely wasn't just regular glue. And so there's enough impact to actually move this at all. It actually cracks the mirror base, and this is actually something pretty common. And if you look very carefully, like right along here, you can see that this thing was moved, and there's like a little very, very small crack both here and along the side of this leg. Luckily, not bad enough where, even pretty close inspection, you can't really see it. And it's and the little crack is facing, of course, away from where the plaque would be, because you can see by the asymmetry of the leg right over here. Just move it down. You can see by the asymmetry here that this is extra space. There's way less space here versus here, and so obviously this is the place where you want to put the signature plaque right over here. And so it does hide very, very well, but it's a little bit disappointing because unfortunately this is no longer in so-called mint condition. There is a very, very small little crack here, and you can see the little crack on the side along the mirror where again this leg was because the impact moved. And I can't help but think that if this was shipped a little bit better protected, and also there wasn't that problem with customs, that they would see a little bit less handling and there wouldn't have been this damage. So, hard to say. Also, the acrylic case itself, there's some like internal like stress area along with the acrylic wraps, and it's not a scratch. It's actually something deeper within the actual acrylic itself. And so, this Mara Jade signature edition does come with these little tiny things. None of them very bad in and of themselves, but altogether, can be, adds up a little bit. So yeah, the little splotch on the certificate of authenticity, the fact that likely during shipping there was a little bit of crack around the right leg. There was a little bit of cracked mirror base from that, and then a small imperfection on the corner of the acrylic. But when you display, all those issues are completely invisible. So again, you're looking at essentially almost $1,000 off of a so-called complete in-box, brand new Mara Jade. And even if you were trying to sell it for a good deal, it would still be probably in the $1,500 to $2,000 range. So you're saving quite a bit of money, for the so-called imperfection. So after turning this around a couple of times, you can see this from all different directions. It is actually a very beautiful design saber, as all of them are. There's a lot of silver. There's no real black highlights here at all. You can see there's a lot of rivets here and here. And then, of course, in my opinion, the most distinctive aspect of it is the T-tracks that are very short, and that's actually right below the emitter versus the grip at the bottom. So let's take this thing off gently. And then we're going to move this aside for now. If I touch this, it's not sticky. So again, I don't know whether this is the very last hilt that Master Replicas ever did. So I wonder if by that time they finally learned enough not to put this rubber coating, or they made better rubber coating. When I feel it though, it does feel like there is rubber. This is a little bit sticky right over here. So I do feel like there is a little bit of stickiness. You can see the dust does kind of accrue, to it. But let's go real close. You can see little tiny imperfections in the T-track. This is actually not damage. It's just dust basically sticking to it. Even my gloves, of course, are not perfect. At least I'm not touching them with my bare hands, but you are going to carry dust with you. So here is the very short T-track grips. You can see that they all come with a bit of a bevel. It looks like a 60-degree angle right here. Over here it's 90-degree. Here you have some of the rivets and the knobs. And then you have this very nice distinctive control box with a red and blue crystal. So her lightsaber actually color, in canon is magenta. So here's the control box, all completely idealized. Here's a little switch. Unfortunately, you can't actually press it down like some of the others. You can see the knurling right here, and then another Allen screw right over here. You can see that. So in exquisite shape. Another screw here, screw over here. Turn it around so you can actually see the emitter. You can actually put your finger all the way through here. Very beautiful. You can see the grooves cut down the center. Turning it around. It would have been a nice touch if this button could move, but that was not done. 1, 2 of these smaller Allen screws. And then the black one here, and then there's one here. This is presumably the power button. It is definitely rubber, I can feel it. It's the same material as the T-track, and it feels a little sticky, just a little bit. So again, when you're holding it, you're meant to hold it like this. Maybe this is where you keep your grip. I don't know what fighting form would require something like this. Maybe Form 5 or something like that, like Gemso, you have to have a strong attack. Let's move down here. You see it's filled with these same screws, of which there's a few up here. Down here, these rivets form a circle all around. Here you have the groove here as well. And then you have this sort of gold knob with the knurling. Very, very pretty. And then of course, the business end away from the emitter is the business end, but this is the actual business end for the collectors. You can see the original made in China, 2007 Master Replicas Inc. Lucasfilm Ltd. You can see here signature edition. So there you have it. You see the little grooves at the ends. Very, very nice. It does feel more feminine. It feels like a saber, that a woman or a female Jedi might use. It's definitely quite a bit lighter than normal. Not to say that this is, feels like plastic or anything. There's always a weight to all of this. This is obviously all machined aluminum. So there is definitely weight. But compared to, some of the other Master Replicas hilts from the prequel and original trilogies, this definitely does feel lighter. Probably only the Emperor and the Yoda's lightsabers are lighter than this. So definitely some good contrast. There you have it. So hopefully you were able to appreciate all of the fine detail that went into this lightsaber. It's a little bit of a bittersweet thing, obviously, because this, after all, was the very, very last hilt from Star Wars that Master Replicas ever made before, essentially losing the license or having the license taken away. Let's have this back in position. And then we're going to put this carefully back on. This leg, by the way, has the two grooves, so you know that is where this goes. It's the grooves here are there to accommodate the T-track, and then this is completely smooth. And you can tell, we're gonna give this little thing, you can tell that I can actually move this a little bit, where here, of course, you cannot move it at all. It's completely set. And then if you want to get a little bit closer, you can definitely see the little tiny crack right next to here, as well as the crack on the back surface right over here. You can see that right there. So how do we put this on? Well, typically for these lightsabers, the control box is facing straight up. This one we may have to compromise a little bit in order for it to work. It usually kind of slots right in. So here, the control box actually slightly facing this. It's not perfectly, as you can see, moving up. If you try to make the control box completely perpendicular, though, it doesn't fit. So this is obviously the way they intended for you to display it, a little bit below the rivets here. So the smooth part goes here, and then the T-tracks fit into the double grooves on this leg. So there you have it. We're gonna put the signature plaque right on over here. And then finally, last but not least, let's take the background off so that we can put on the acrylic case. And again, it's very, very difficult to see the defect, but yeah, it's right where my finger is, right over here. So you can actually see it. It's this little streak of white. You can see that? That's all the way over here. You can tell the white is right here. And honestly, I don't know what that is. I mean, I can polish this. You can't feel it on the inside or the outside. But as you can imagine, once you put this thing on, it's just invisible. I mean, you have to really look for it. I think this is a good angle because you can see the black, it brings it out. You can see there's just this little bit of, I don't even know what to call it, like maybe it was bent, and then it cracked internally or something. I don't know what that is, but it's not a traditional scratch for sure. So anyways, there is that. But again, this acrylic case is very easily replaced. There's a lot of fabricators who make identical cases to this. So not too big a deal, the mirror base and all that. But the important thing is certificate of authenticity is here. The signature plaque is there as well. So those are all the things that are present. For me, as somebody who doesn't collect these to resell, but who collects them to essentially display and enjoy, the things that I really, really want, obviously, are a pristine lightsaber. That's the number one priority. Lightsaber has no damage. It looks good. And then the certificate of authenticity is a must. And then finally, of course, the plaque itself, has to be there as well. In this case, the signature plaque. And so as far as all that goes, I'm quite pleased with this. I think it's going to display beautifully, and the minor little tiny nitpicks here or there, I think, is small enough that we're going to be able to live with it. There's no real horrible crack or defect or anything like that. And again, I got it for pretty good prices. You're not going to get it for much cheaper than $1,000 shipped, in my opinion, which is sort of what I got for this deal, give or take in that neighborhood. There's one right now on the Facebook forums where he was a little bit ambitious, and he's dropped it all the way down to, I think, 1,100 euros. But his version does have he says it's a small crack, but I think it's a pretty noticeable crack. It's more noticeable than mine. But yeah, there's definitely that crack on the mirror base. So there you have it. This is the Mara Jade lightsaber from Master Replicas. The 11th, in my opinion, the 11th and last signature edition of the 11, of a total of 11, and hope you were somewhat interested by the history of how this came to be, and who designed it, and under what context or circumstances this was created, and why you would even have a signature of this just sort of random model actress. But there you go. Don't quite know how to feel about that. The very last hilt was this. This is, I gotta say, it's a signature edition, but I don't know, it's kind of a weak way to end the line, I think this is a beautiful lightsaber hilt. I think it's very unique, well designed. It pays a lot of homage to the original, lightsaber designs. Kind of mixes things up a little bit, but it can be a little bit of a controversial design. One person says it's a little bit hard to figure out which is the business end. I can kind of see where they're coming from. If you know your lightsaber design, though, you can clearly tell that this part down here is the hilt. It just doesn't have any rubber T-tracks, but I guess it could be a little bit confusing to see the T-tracks in shortened form at the emitter area. But the fact that they're so short should tell you something already. It has a little bit of crystal on there. It's got a little bit of everything. It's got the control, the knob that's kind of plated. I think it's brass. I don't think it's quite gold. So it's got a little bit of everything there. But yeah, this is it. This was the last saber they ever made, and they only made 750 of these. And this is, for a lot of people, kind of the last signature edition they get. And of course, we're trying to acquire all of the iconic ones first, and then you gotta save this one for the last because it's the easiest one to obtain and the least important. But I got a price that was basically too good to pass up, so I went for it. For those of you who are keeping track through my videos, I have now all of them, and I'm missing just two. I'm missing the Anakin Skywalker Attack of the Clones signature edition, which is a gorgeous lightsaber, and I'm definitely going to get that eventually. And then the Darth Maul signature edition, which is a little bit complicated because it's the only one that doesn't have actually a acrylic case because it's too long, so they just kind of plopped it on they just plopped it on a short mirror base. I really dislike that. And since then, there have been a few private people who have created, they have created a custom mirror base that fits the length of the dual lightsaber, the dual handle lightsaber, double bladed lightsaber, as well as a longer acrylic case. So another example, kind of, of mass replicas, the sort of annoying tendency to cut corners a little bit because they didn't want to spend the extra, budget to create the longer base and cover that would have been necessary, for Darth Maul's unique hilt. So I'm just missing those two, and I'll have all 11 of the signature editions, which is a pretty unique, pretty big feat, and I'm quite happy that I was able to accomplish. Well, look at the time; it's already 40 minutes. I mean, I didn't think I would have anything to say about Mara Jade, and I did all of this without even going into Mara Jade's character and how she fell in love with Luke and married him and was the mother to a son, and all of this wonderful expanded universe lore that Disney Plus, or that Disney kind of did away with when they obtained Lucasfilm. So without even getting into the lore of Mara Jade and what a cool character she is, just kind of talking about the lightsaber itself, the hilt, the signature plaque, all the normal stuff is already up to 40 minutes. So I think that's quite long enough. Thank you again for your attention. And there's not that many, I don't think. I have to check. There's not many, I think, Mara Jade Master Replicas lightsabers on YouTube. So hopefully, this will fill a niche like all of my lightsaber reviews do. There just is not enough Master Replicas lightsaber reviews on YouTube, period. So hopefully, again, this kind of fills a niche out there. Maybe not now, maybe not next year or even next decade, but eventually, people will find this somewhat useful, be able to take a look at the hilt in all of its glorious detail, learn about its history. Next up, I'll have a couple of hilts that are not signature edition. They're not even iconic, in my opinion, but they're just really, really beautiful hilts from Master Replicas from the Revenge of the Sith. And I'll talk a little bit about that once we get there. But even though I personally don't really like the movie that much, I don't like the entire concept of the prequels, I have to say that, man, when the props department, finally got a chance after so many decades of making lightsabers for, that prequel trilogy, and when they finally got to Revenge of the Sith, I mean, they really went wild. They took the original concepts and they just made such gorgeous, beautiful lightsaber hilts. It definitely does not have the iconic status of the original trilogy, but I have to say that in terms of workmanship, in terms of materials, design with homage to the originals, man, those Revenge of the Sith lightsabers are just mind-blowing, just really, really stunning. So I do look forward to actually reviewing them. You can see how the mirror base is polished to the point where it's so polished that's slippery, so that when you're just even talking and just kind of rotating it around, it's enough for the signature plaque to actually slide around. So that just kind of shows you the mirror sheen of this thing. Okay, very good. I hope you enjoyed that. I'll leave that here, ending with this nice shot of Mara Jade's lightsaber hilt. Until next time, do take care.